Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I hope you all had a great Easter over the last few days. I certainly have. And today I'm back and I'm going to be reviewing the three main types of Land Raider featured in the Space Marine Codex. I'll also touch on the Chaos Land Raider, and you can get that in the Thousand Suns, Death Guard and regular Chaos Space Marines. Land Raider is a big heavy tank that the Space Marines used. It's really old. It was used back in the Horus Heresy by the original Space Marine legions, and it's got quite a lot of weaponry as well as the ability to transport things. But often people say it's not so good because it's very expensive and it can be caught up in melee, so I'm going to take a look at this today and go over a couple of things you could do with it, and then I'll make my own decision about that. So the Land Raider is 285 points, and this is for all three variants, and it has the exact same datasheet for each of the three. It starts off with a movement of 10 inches, weapon skill of 6+, ballistic skill of 3+, strength and toughness 8, 16 wounds, 6 attacks, a leadership of 9 and a 2-up save. As it loses wounds, it'll lose its movement, ballistic skill and attacks. So at 8 wounds it'll have a movement of 5, 4-up ballistic skill and d6 attacks, and at 4 wounds it'll have 3 inch of movement, 5+ ballistic skill and d3 attacks. You can see that some of these, especially the movement, degrades quite a lot as it goes down, and although it wasn't exactly fast to begin with, this will mean that you're going to need to get it where it needs to go first in the game before it gets too slow to go anywhere. So the Land Raider, like I said, it's the iconic Space Marine heavy tank. There are quite a lot of points, and whilst you can say things about putting all of your eggs in one basket, if it gets destroyed or caught up in melee, then it'll be pretty useless just sitting there. There is obviously a lot of firepower on it. You can see on this picture that this thing has 2 twin las cannons already, and it's also got a good transport capacity, being able to carry Terminators and Centurions as well as regular Space Marines. It can't carry Primaris though, so that's one limitation of this. I'll be going over 3 different types of Land Raider in this video, starting with this version, the basic Land Raider, and then I'll go on to the Redeemer and the Crusader. So this basic Land Raider is armed with a twin heavy bolter and 2 twin las cannons. It has a transport capacity of 10, which is actually the smallest of the 3, although this one does have the best anti-tank firepower. Of the 3 of them, I'd usually take this one because I'm most likely to be carrying Terminators in this, and they don't have very good anti-tank weapons, so to be able to kill hard targets with this thing whilst the Terminators deal with any infantry will be pretty useful, especially to keep your Terminators from getting caught up in melee with a big tank or being shot by high strength weapons. All 3 variants can also be given 1 Hunter-Killer missile, 1 Multi-Melter and 1 Stormbolter. The Stormbolter and Hunter-Killer missile are 5 points extra, and the Multi-Melter is, I believe, 20 points. I'd usually go with the Stormbolter on this, just to give it a little bit of extra light infantry firepower, good for just finishing off a unit. And I don't think I'd choose the Hunter-Killer missile very often. The Multi-Melter is also a strong choice, but I think it's better on some of the options for the Land Raider that don't have the las cannons, so it can give them some anti-tank capability as well. I wouldn't be adverse to using this, however. Next up we have the Land Raider Redeemer. This one has a transport capacity of 12 instead of 10, and both of its main weapons are changed. Instead of the twin heavy bolter, it gets a twin assault cannon, which is probably an upgrade, as it gets slightly shorter range actually, but it's higher strength. It also has 2 Flamestorm cannons. Now these are really short range, so the range lost on the Twin Assault Cannon probably won't be much. The Flamestorm cannons are both heavy D6, strength 6, AP -2 and flat damage 2. However, they're only 12-inch range, but they do automatically hit. This isn't really good because it leaves it very vulnerable to being caught in melee, because even if you stay 12 inches away from things, most light infantry units will have a movement of about 5 or 6, and that only leaves them with a maximum of about a 7-inch charge to get into combat with this, and that'll happen quite often. So I think this version is probably the weakest of the 3. Once again, you can give it the Stormbolter, Hunter Killer and Multi-Melter. I don't think I'd want to be investing any more points than necessary into this, because personally I don't think I'd be playing this. Finally, I'm onto the Land Raider Crusader. Now this is definitely the anti-infantry choice. It's got the Twin Assault Cannon and 2 Hurricane Bolters, which are exactly the same as regular bolt guns, except instead of rapid fire 1, they are rapid fire 6, meaning that within 12 inches you'll be getting 24 bolt gun shots out of this, and that's a lot of damage. It also has the highest transport capacity at 16. I think this one's slightly better than the Redeemer, but I'd still take the regular Land Raider with the las cannons over this. I think both of the other variants of Land Raider, they're just weaker in general than the original one. On this, I think the Multi-Melter is pretty much necessary, unless you know you're not going to be going up against any tanks or heavier units. I'd say if you're just going for transport capacity, then obviously this one's the best because it's got the highest capacity, but for firepower, the regular Land Raider is probably more balanced, with the Twin Heavy Bolter doing pretty well against most forms of infantry, and the las cannons being able to take out most vehicles. Now, onto my final opinion of these, and I'd have to say they're only getting a 5 out of 10, and even that's feeling a bit generous. They're very durable, and they can do a lot of damage, but it is very expensive. If it explodes in the middle of your army, that won't be very good, and it can be caught in melee easily. I think there are better transports available, such as a Rhino being able to carry 10 non-Primaris Marines for a fraction of the cost of a Land Raider, and I think if you want to carry Terminators, then you might be better just teleporting them in. I think the only thing that you'd need to transport in this would be Centurions, however people don't tend to use them that much in games anyway, so it's not that much of a problem. I think it's a shame how these are not so good, because in the past I think they've been quite good, but the version in current 9th edition is just not up to par. I think the Chaos version, which is pretty much the same as the Imperium version, is even worse than that. There are just so many better options in all of the codices. So overall I'm going to have to give it a 5 out of 10. But thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and please subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.